Hey, everybody. I'm Alex Simons. I'm the Corporate Vice President for Identity Program Management at Microsoft. And I'm really excited to be with you here today. In the crazy times that we live in and all the things that have happened, it's been a really, really awesome year for the identity industry. In fact, I think if you reflect back on the last 5 months and the incredible shift that our industry and our customers have gone through, it's really shown how important the amazing innovations that we've done over the past 10 years are, and how much the important work that we've all done together on identity standards and the products that support those identity standards have made it possible for the whole world to shift from learning from home, to shift to work from home, and all of those millions of people who are able to be at home and be safe and be productive couldn't have achieved that without the work that we've done in this industry. So today I want to spend some time talking about the things that we've achieved and where things are going, and then some of the new things coming on the horizon that I'm really excited about. But first I want to start off and just give a big thank you to everybody in the industry who's worked so hard for the past 10 years to get a bunch of really, really solid standards in place, to get great implementations of those standards in place, and to really make it possible for the whole world to transition. I think you can't even imagine how much harder the kind of transition we've had to go through because of COVID-19 would have been 10 or 15 years ago compared to today, and how different the world would be without the amazing work that this industry has done. So thank you and congratulations on having your work be so relevant to so many people. This was also a great year for progress on standards in terms of emerging standards and improvements to existing standards. In fact, across the board, we saw great progress in all kinds of areas that I think are really going to start paying off. Some of these right away, some of these in the longer term. But again, as an industry, we just have this great tradition of working together in an open and standards-based way where we collaborate and work on how do we enable new scenarios and new technologies for our customers that enable them to do amazing things. So this was no different. Up on the slide here, you can see all kinds of areas where we made great progress that I'm just really excited about. So one set of standards work I'd really like to highlight is in the FIDO2 area. If you've been to Identiverse before, you know that this is an area I've got a lot of passion and excitement for. I just think the things that we're achieving in terms of enabling amazing, smooth end user experiences with world-class security and doing that in an open standards-based way that can go across every platform and application are really laying the groundwork for a super secure future that we just couldn't achieve otherwise. So I really would like to thank all of you for the incredible work that's gone in here, and like to give you like a little update on some of the progress. So the first thing I'll bring up is this awesome kind of report card on how the industry is doing in terms of adding support for the latest FIDO2 set of standards. As you can see across every major browser, across all of the operating system vendors, we've got tremendous traction. In fact, way more green boxes than red boxes now, which is great. And we just have a little bit more work to do. You know, we need our friends at Apple and Google to just make that final little push so that we can get FIDO2 support everywhere in the industry. But we're at a really exciting point now where so close and so many different form factors and pieces of software that support this seamlessly. The other thing I'm really excited about is the growing set of applications and services and relying parties that now have made the bet on FIDO2. So here you can see on the screen a whole bunch of them. I'd like to see more, of course, but I really want to thank these partners for the great work that they've done and for stepping up and really being the first ones to take that big bet on the FIDO2 set of standards with us. This is absolutely critical to make sure that we have both the platforms in place and the relying parties in place. And then last thing that I think is super exciting is just the amazing proliferation of FIDO2 compatible hardware. So you've seen everything from the original keys that were really kind of pioneered by Yubico and the amazing work that they did early on there. And then just a whole bunch of really cool new form factors that have been added. Things like, biometric sensitive keys, smart cards, watches, and now even all of the phones and Windows PCs are becoming FIDO2 compatible hardware devices. So you've just got this incredible proliferation of really cool devices that are, custom designed for all kinds of different scenarios and different people's choices. And so I just think this is another great area of really good progress. And thank you to all of the partners and vendors who have done so much great work in this space to make these different form factors available. So let's go ahead. Libby, who leads the passwordless efforts on my team back in Redmond, has put together a great video of a demo for us here. So let's take a look at this demo. You're going to see how we can really get all of these things working across platform now in amazing ways. So Libby, can you go ahead and take a shot at that for us? Thanks, Libby. But hey, we're not done yet. There's still a whole bunch of work we need to do in FIDO2 to really turn it into an enterprise quality standard. Today, we have a lot of users. In fact, just in Microsoft, we have over 150 million people who've already gone passwordless. But really, to get this everywhere, we need to finish the work. So we got to get a bunch of work done in enterprise attestation so that large customers can pre-configure their authenticators and ship them out from a factory maybe, and they can decide which set of tokens they want to trust. But then we also need to enable all kinds of enterprise policies as well. So for instance, being able to have specific kinds of hardware configurations or key configurations and allowing or rejecting keys from different vendors, for instance. We need to offer our high-end enterprise customers those kinds of capabilities to get us to the point where they'll feel as good about FIDO2-based authenticators as they do about their smart cards today. So now let's talk about some of the new emerging areas that there's still a bunch of work for us to do together. Now, in March and April, all around the world, within the course of 2 to 3 weeks, we pretty much sent everybody home, right? We sent them home from work, we sent them home from school, and we asked them to start adopting all kinds of new ways of learning. In fact, we saw this giant increase all around the world. If you look here at this slide, for instance, we saw broadband use in the U.S. increase by an average of 41% between January and March. In fact, here at Microsoft, we saw this giant increase in all of our services, work services, but also a lot of Xbox services as well. But the world has really shifted, right? So we've seen this incredible increase in the use of collaboration apps. So everything from WeChat to Zoom to Microsoft Teams to Slack, just incredible usage growth in those kinds of remote conferencing applications, collaboration applications. Those have been super popular. All kinds of growth in use from home in terms of schools doing remote education, in terms of things like even being able to do digital signatures, right? Just like all kinds of new things that people have never needed to do before because the world shifted so dramatically in such a short time frame. So we sent all these people home and we saw this giant increase in all this usage. Now the real question is, are they going to come back? And what we're starting to see increasingly from our customers all around the world, and you've read this in the press just like us, is a lot of them are not planning to. So most software companies, high-tech companies, cloud companies have, made pretty clear statements about how a lot of their folks can work remote for forever. But I've been really surprised to see some of the major banks, people like Capital One, JP Morgan, Chase, Morgan Stanley, saying that they're going to have a lot of their employees who don't come home. In fact, I think what we're seeing is this amazing combination of, it's almost like the genie is out of the bottle. Like people are proving that they can be super productive using all these modern tools working from home. And CFOs have figured out that there's an awful lot of money they can save on rent, especially rent in very high rent districts all around the world, if they can enable those employees to work from home. So I think between the combination of those two, we are probably at this amazing turnover point where work from home is becoming the new standard. And luckily, because of amazing set of work that we've all done over the past 10 years, we can now give people the ability to work from home and give corporations, enterprises, and governments and schools the ability to be super secure and compliant and do so in a way that doesn't require building out an incredible set of VPN servers and extending their network edge. All of that using identity as a control plane and doing it in a zero trust way so that now I can send people home. They can be using either their work machine or their home machines. They can safely access all the things they're supposed to. But as an enterprise, I know that they can only get to the things that they need to get to. I can verify their devices. I can verify their identities. I can let them get to only the exact set of resources that they need to get to in a very safe and compliant way. And this new zero trust approach, where you get rid of that hairpin back through the corporate network and you really decide, hey, I'm just going internet native. That has been a huge, huge enabler for customers as they sent just hordes of employees home. And without the great work that that all of you in the industry have done for open standards over the last 10 years, this wouldn't have been possible. Now, interestingly, you can even see the increase in the interest in these topics from Google searches as we were sending people home, right? So in March, all of a sudden, this huge increase, for instance, here in the United States, in searches for zero trust. And then a giant jump worldwide in searches for MFA as people realize, okay, I'm sending employees home. They're going to be outside my corporate network. Maybe for the first time ever, I need some way to verify those identities and prove that that really is the person who it's supposed to be. So just big increases in Google search words, and across the whole industry, big increases in the uses of these kinds of capabilities as well. In fact, we recently had an online forum that Microsoft hosted along with Jim Eckert, who's the former global CISO for Coca-Cola, where Fortune 1000 CISOs from around the world spent 90 minutes online in a discussion with us, talking about their priorities and the emerging trends they're seeing in their industries. And really 4 big messages came out of those discussions. The first was an increasing focus on using and accelerating zero trust models and getting rid of the corporate hairpin back through the VPN to the corporate network. The second big one was an increase in the importance of virtual desktops and managed devices so that employees who are remote could get access to the critical information they needed to, but could do so in a secure and compliant way where the enterprise knew it wasn't losing control over critical assets. The third big trend was a really big increase in the interest in data protection technologies. As data starts flowing out into the world and out onto the internet, it becomes much more important to be able to tag it, encrypt it, and treat it correctly so that only the right people can get access to it. And then finally, like you would expect, a big interest in the use of digital signatures and being able to conduct business and sign contracts and things like that remotely, even when we're all not in the office. We were pretty excited to see this. We knew for years and years we've been investing in these approaches, and it was great to see how quickly these had become really important topic areas for these CISOs. And obviously for us in identity, the zero trust approach with identity really at the center is an awesome validation of the work that we've been doing for so many years together. So as exciting as all of that is, and this new zero trust model, there are still some issues that we need to go work on together to address. The biggest ones are all of the various man-in-the-middle threats, where someone can steal an access token and be able to replay it against an endpoint and get back data that maybe they shouldn't have access to. So I want to highlight a couple of emerging technologies that we think are really important in this space, and both encourage everybody to really focus on these standards, but also if you're not involved in those, to get involved and learn more about them. They're really going to help make this zero trust model even more reliable than it is today. So the first area I want to talk about is mitigating the man-in-the-middle problem for bearer tokens. Now, we've tried this before. A lot of you will recall painfully the whole set of work we did around TLS token binding and how that just didn't bear out. There were some fatal flaws there. A lot of our enterprise customers want to be able to do break and inspect, and that certainly can't be done at the TLS token binding level. There were some other problems with building up kind of the infrastructure that was needed. It was very expensive and required changing out a whole bunch of platform capabilities across the industry. So that just never really took off. The judges gave it, 3 big X's, if you will. But we think that there's an opportunity to deliver some of that same value we were looking for in the TLS token binding space in a way that's in a higher layer at the application layer, and that gives us many of the same benefits without many of the problems. And that's what industry is called demonstration of proof of possession, or DPoP for short. Now, you'll remember token binding was kind of painful because it was implemented at the platform layer and required a ton of work by the platform vendors, the browser vendors. Industry support never really took off, and major browsers never picked up all of the support for it. DPoP, on the other hand, is moving up a layer into the authentication layer. So now it does give us the same kinds of protections for tokens, especially for OAuth tokens. We like that. It lets our customers continue to do break and inspect, which they need a lot at the edge of the enterprises, especially for kind of in FinServ and healthcare and things like that, where they're highly regulated. They want to be able to do those kinds of things. The implementation requires a lot less work for the platform layers across the industry. It can largely be done at the application layer. And it lets people really get the kind of control that they want, make sure that their tokens aren't being stolen and replayed without taking on all of the retrofit of all of their kind of corporate and service infrastructure. The second standard that I want to highlight is the Continuous Access and Evaluation Protocol, or CAPE for short, set of work. This one I'm really excited about. This is for increasing the amount of communication that goes on between identity services and the applications that rely on them, so that at any time, if a security signal or an event happens that indicates that a session has gone south, a hacker has compromised the account, an employee has left the business, anything like that might happen, either the relying party or the application can signal each other that the session is deteriorated, the session has got some kind of problem with it and needs to be reevaluated. And then that can be broadcast out by the identity provider to all of the applications that user has access to. The tokens can all be invalidated, and the user can be sent back to be re-inspected at the identity point again. So this gives us a really nice benefit of this continuous evaluation of the user session. In fact, you could even think about this as a way to monitor what's going on inside of a session, and then all of a sudden a user takes some kind of risky behavior. Maybe they're downloading a document to a personal machine that they shouldn't, or they're taking all kinds of customer data. You can evaluate the session in session and then revoke all their tokens everywhere, send them back to the IDP, reevaluate before you let them into your resources again. So we really like the characteristics of this standard, both in terms of the layer, having it done at the application layer instead of at the transport layer. And we also like the fact that you can do this in real time and continuously evaluate all of the work that we need to make sure that the IDPs and all of the application relying parties are sharing signal, and it's almost like you get a little bit of kind of like herd immunity if we can get this standard right. So we're really excited about this, and you'll see us at Microsoft making big investments here, and we'd like to invite everybody else in the industry to join in as well. I would like to highlight 2 sessions during Identiverse that are particularly good for these. If you're interested in learning more about the Depop or CAPE, I would encourage you to see Annabelle Backman or Brian Campbell's sessions. Obviously, those are online, and they'll be really great for learning more about those technologies. Okay, so now we've talked about some of the amazing things we've accomplished this year. I've highlighted a couple of really cool, important new standards that we need to work on short term. Lastly, I'd like to close with a look at what's coming up next and some of the exciting work going on in the world to really enable a whole new kind of identity model, one that's very high trust and privacy protecting. Now, because of COVID-19, a whole bunch of scenarios that we all need to do every day have gotten a lot more challenging. For instance, just going into work and proving who you are, for instance, or conducting financial transactions. Wouldn't it be nice if you could sign up for a bank account or refinance your loan without having to go in and provide all kinds of identity proofs? And then finally, what the heck do you do when you need to obtain a new government ID remotely? It's super challenging. So all of these sets of scenarios are getting much harder and probably will be pretty hard until we have a vaccine. But in addition, they've always been things that had real limitations when it came to being able to connect the digital world and the physical world in a way that's really privacy protecting and gives people control of their identity information. So we think that this is a great set of scenarios to enable, and we think that there are in particular two key open standards that we all want to pay attention to here. The first is the verifiable credentials standards, and the second is a whole set of work around decentralized identifiers. We believe that by combining the power of these two standards, we can create a world and a set of capabilities that will give users control over all of their identity information, and to do so in a way where it can be trusted and they know exactly how it's being used, and away from the world of kind of centralized identity authorities who can, violate privacy or take advantage of the ownership of an identity. So we just want to move to a world where no large organization, including Microsoft, has the ability to control a person's identity. We want people to control their identities. We have a bunch of partners who are working in this industry. So rather than just me telling you about how great this is, let's hear from them.
Workday sees verifiable credentials and decentralized identifiers as foundational technologies that will enable a new type of trusted, secure, and efficient cross-organizational business process. We're excited to partner with Microsoft and others in the decentralized identity community around interoperability, the refinement of standards, and delivering practical solutions based on these powerful new ideas.
We are excited about using a decentralized model to share verifiable credentials. We believe empowering employees and clients to issue and accept such credentials while maintaining privacy can be transformational. We are thrilled to be a part of the decentralized identity community and collaborate with Microsoft to make this vision a reality.
Verified credentials and decentralized identifiers are two areas that we're really excited about, and there's been awesome progress this year. In fact, last year at Identiverse, we talked a ton about decentralized identifiers. But if you weren't here, what I want to do is give Pamela Dingle, who leads our open standards efforts, an opportunity to tell you about decentralized identifiers and how they work.
Hello, identity fans. What you see in this diagram are some of the moving parts in a decentralized identity system. Let's go through a few of these parts and talk about what they do and how they relate to each other. The first part of this system is the blockchain layer at the bottom. In decentralized identity, we use the blockchain as an immutable record to store public keys and other discoverable information in a DID document. That DID document is referenceable using a unique identifier prefixed by DID. Credentials that relate to a DID identifier can be resolved into their DID document using a universal resolver. The advantage of putting a DID document on the blockchain is unique. The DID document, once written, is immutable, meaning that nobody can erase it from the blockchain, and it is stored in a way that no single entity can take away. This trust mechanism is then used as the anchor to provide ownership of assertions called verifiable credentials. A verifiable credential is stored in an individually controlled wallet or other application, which is called a user agent in this diagram. When a user presents that verifiable credential to a resource that wishes to rely upon the data within, the relying party to that information, called the verifier, can check to see that the user presenting the credential controls the private key that corresponds to the public key claimed in the DID associated to the verifiable credential. This process is similar to existing enterprise assertion flows, but please note the difference. The user themselves is in control of the cryptographic elements of trust. Cool, right?
Thanks, Pam. Hey, this is a space where things are moving really fast. Most open standards efforts take sometimes 3 or 4 years. This standards effort across the whole industry is moving at an incredible rate. In fact, over the last 18 months, we've seen unbelievable progress. First two I'd like to highlight our work in the verifiable credentials space. That is now a published W3C standard. Really great progress there. The second piece is the decentralized identifiers, kind of the DID spec itself. So first of all, thanks to everybody who helped contribute to these standards, and congratulations on the incredible rate with which they were standardized. That was just a huge win for everybody. There are also 3 key technologies to enable these kinds of decentralized identifiers that I want to highlight. These are all in the Decentralized Identity Forum, which is an open standards, open source-based forum that we're one of the many members of. This is for a user agent for storing individual claims, for a universal resolver to be able to look up and find an identity on some kind of blockchain implementation. And then finally, obviously, getting the blockchains and ledgers to the point where they can actually scale and have the kinds of performance needed to support billions and billions of identities. All of this is amazing progress for only 18 months and something like we've never seen before. Maybe the most amazing progress has actually been in the scalability area. So working together as an industry in the Decentralized Identity Forum, we've created a technology that we call side trees. And what a side tree does is it lets you greatly increase the throughput on top of any given distributed ledger. We've built an implementation of it called Ion that works on top of the blockchain decentralized ledger. However, there are other implementations, and it's an open standards, open source based implementation. Now, I don't really understand how the heck this thing works. They tell me there are like Merkle trees and some other amazing things in there, and I don't know. But it's amazing, and you can see here the huge performance increase that we've got in terms of the number of transactions per second that are possible. We finally, with the Ion network, which is our implementation of SideTree from the diff running on top of blockchain, are at the point where we can get enough transactions a second to realistically think about having identities created for pretty much everybody on the planet. So this has been a huge breakthrough, and we're seeing these SideTree nodes come up across blockchain, but also on other distributed ledgers as well. So really nice progress here, and this more than anything else is like, to me, is like magic science. I'm amazed at the work that the industry has done here. The Decentralized Identity Foundation is a really big group of people now all working together on this. If you're not a member, I would certainly encourage you to join or to just read up and learn more about it. A whole bunch of new projects are starting there. Maybe the most interesting one is cell-phone key recovery. I think that's the kind of the last key missing part. So when someone loses their phone or their device or their hub or whatever, how do we make it easy for them to recover their key so that they can get back all of their identity data? So hopefully you'll join in the community and help advance this really critical, cool set of standards. So with that, I'm going to just wrap up. And once again, I'd like to thank and congratulate everybody in the industry. There was never a year where I felt like the work that we did had more impact and, just basically helped humanity to survive and thrive and adapt to an amazing new set of demands that have been placed on us. So thank you for all your efforts. Congratulations on a great year. And in closing, hey, let's just keep moving forward. In the FIDO2 space, we just need to continue to build momentum. Let's make sure we finish out all of the final platform work. Let's get our relying parties to use FIDO2. In fact, if you're an enterprise software buyer, we would sure encourage you to put FIDO2 support onto your enterprise RFPs. Let's just get as many people, as many apps, as many form factors as possible using the FIDO2 set of standards. We need to add in kind of the enterprise class capabilities to the FIDO specs to make sure that they really can eventually become the replacement for smart cards and certificates that, kind of big government and banking customers have become used to. Let's continue to push on the standards in the zero trust space around CAPE and Depop. And then finally, gosh, I hope you'll join us in the push to create a new world of privacy enhancing, decentralized identities based on verified claims. There's just so much potential there to make the world better and more seamless and to bridge kind of the digital and physical world divide. And then last, like always, if nothing else, I would encourage everybody, please, 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 if you haven't already, turn on MFA. If you get nothing else out of this conference, please turn on multi-factor authentication for all your accounts. Thanks a ton for your time. I really appreciate it. I just want to highlight, please evaluate the session. Just scan the QR code and let us know how it was. Always looking for feedback. There's a whole ton of really great sessions being delivered by my colleagues and coworkers here at Microsoft. So I hope you'll take advantage of the awesome sessions that they're offering. And then lastly, I'll just say thank you so much, and make sure to join us on the Identiverse Slack channel and with the hashtag #ask_Microsoft. Thanks a ton for your time, and hope to see you soon.